Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we are diving back into the Boss Billionaire series by Z.L. Arkadie. Now, if you have not listened to book one, which is called Tempting, that review is going to be available down below in the description section. So once you finish with that review, come and join us as we dive into book two, Impulse. We are now at Christmas time. Jada and Spencer are on her parents' doorstep, and we get a little backdrop. We find out that the few weeks leading up to this point, she hasn't really been seeing a lot of Spencer because he's been working. So something is off with him. She can feel it, doesn't know exactly what it is. They took a private plane from Jackson Hole to California, and her mother is the Senate Majority Leader, I think. I'm going to go with that because I think that's what it said. Well, anyway, her mother's yard looks different, okay? It looks very contemporary. Before it had a more classic style. So on the trip here, she kept asking him, are you okay? Did you find what you were looking for? He did admit that he found what he was looking for, but he's not ready to talk about it yet. He needs to sit with it for a moment, and he needs her to be okay with that. And she's like, okay. So now they're standing in front of the doorway. They wind up kissing. He tries to settle her, and he's like, you know what? Let's just have fun. She knows if her mother sees any cracks within this relationship, she's going to pulverize this relationship, you know? So that's a lot of pressure knowing someone is gunning for you, you know, but you got to try and act like everything's okay, even though there is something going on. You just don't quite know what it is. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure. Poor girl. But she's got to have her game face on so that her mom doesn't try to destroy the relationship. But my thing is, if she doesn't want you with the person anyway, she's going to try and destroy it regardless, whether you show cracks or not. She's going to try and, you know, get you out of that relationship if that's not what she wants for you. While they're kissing, voice comes through the intercom, the security system that says, you know, you can come inside. So they go inside. All eyes are on Spencer. Because you got to remember, Spencer has not really been in public the past 5 years. So everyone is very mystified that he's resurfaced here. You know? She sees her dad. He looks different. He looks like he's put on some healthy weight because he used to be really frail looking. But he looks like he's put on some muscle. He looks healthy. He looks like about 10 to 15 years younger. He's not wearing his normal glasses. He tells her he's had LASIK surgery. And this is very unsettling to her, right? Because there's all these changes, you know? And changes only get done by her mom. And so for her, it's like, why is she changing? What is she doing? You know? Like, for someone else, it's like, okay, your mom changes, it's just something she needs for her, right? That would be a normal thought. But based on what Jada says, her mom does drastic attention. And because her mom has done this stuff so much in the past, she kind of knows the signs of stuff is coming. So she knows all of this change just means something. This isn't because the mother felt like it. You know, the mother's trying to get her attention. You got to remember, she went off, she got some job as an assistant. The mother does not approve of this job. So if the mother doesn't approve, you're not doing what the mother wants, she's got to get you back in line. So she clearly knows how to throw her daughter for a loop. Crazy though. That's absolutely crazy. That her mom just changing things lets her know her mom's up to something. That's wild. The father, of course, goes up to Spencer. He's like, Spencer Blackstone. He's like, you got a lot of my money tied up, with you. And he's like, yeah, I know. And he says, and I could use some improvement on those investments that I have with you. And so that's when the dad tells Jada, go visit with your mother in the terrace room. Now she doesn't want to go. Everything in her is screaming, do not leave Spencer, okay? Um the way she describes her mother is really like poison, you know? If she gets around her, her mother's going to spew poison, you know? But anyway, she finally works up the nerve because Spencer tells her, he's like, it's okay, I'm going to be okay. Go ahead. And so she goes off to see her mother. So, the terrace room. This is where the politicos, as she calls them, this is where they gather in the terrace room. Everyone else stays in the other parts of the house because that's like more so dealing with her father's business. Sounds like he's in finance some kind of way. Um, when they're in the terrace room, they all the political people are here, so that way if they slip up and say something dangerous, it's just other political people around, so it's cool. So they greet each other. Her mom's cold as hell. Her mother says, this is Jimmy, Lavelle, and he's running for Senate for the state of Rhode Island. And she's like, he needs your skills to help him with the campaign. So of course she's like, why would you need a PR person? And I'm sitting there going, he needs a PR because he probably done did some bullshit. You know what I mean? So the Jimmy guy is all like, I'd love to have you on my team, blah, 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 blah. She's hearing all this stuff, and her mother starts going into this whole spiel about, how they're public servants, and this is the family business. This is what this family does. And again, it just sounds like someone trying to manipulate, push someone into the direction that they want them to go, right? So the mom also makes a comment about, Jimmy and you are you're from the same type of families, and, you know, you're around the same age. And at that moment is when our boy Spencer comes in, and he hears her say the whole beacons of the public statement, and he wraps his arms around Jada's waist. And for her, it feels like the cavalry just came in to save her because she was starting to feel drowning. Because clearly it's easy for the mother to get her like quickly. So the mom started talking, as if this is what her daughter's gonna be doing. You know, like she's gonna be actually doing PR for this person, and the mom is kind of looking at Spencer with, they're having a little back and forth. The mother seems to have something, I don't know if it's personal against him or she just don't like him because he's with her daughter and she don't want him with her daughter. I don't know which one yet, but she clearly does not like Spencer. I forgot to mention when he first came in, of course, he made the comment to Patricia, thank you so much for inviting me. And she goes, well, my daughter insisted. So then the Jimmy guy asked Jada what school she went to, and I'm sorry, he didn't ask her because he knows what school she went to. He went to like the male counterpart school. And the mom's like, oh, another thing you all have in common. Then he asked her what party she was affiliated with. And Spencer's still holding Jada, right? And Jada winds up going, can you excuse us? And her mother goes, not in the middle of a discussion. And she says, yes. Again, excuse us. And she goes off with Spencer. Now, normally she wouldn't have done that. Her mother gives that tone, that voice, she falters. But it's like Spencer is giving her some extra strength. And she can tell he's already formed an opinion of her mom. Um, but I personally think it's because he knows a secret about that mom. Because I haven't forgotten about the whole spiel about there being another kid that the dad well, we don't know because it could be Patricia's kid. I don't know. Did Patricia step out and have another one and have to give it up? or did the father step out and have a kid and had to give it up? But both Bronwyn and Spencer both had this thing about asking her if she had like siblings. So somebody did something. So I'm still waiting for that little plot point to go ahead and pay off. They leave and go down the hall right outside towards like the back of the house, and they kiss and all this type of stuff because they haven't been like really fucking with each other because he's been working so hard. So he winds up picking her up. He's like, "Tell me where I can take you." So he takes her back down in the hall, and she tells him which room because it's supposed to be a storage room. And they go in there, have a nice heart fuck. It's so intense. They're like looking deep at each other as they're fucking. So girl even screamed out loud. I was like, well, damn, she don't even give a shit. Anyway, afterwards, um, she tells him, don't let anything come between us. She's like, I know my mother's alive. He's like, your mother's a pill. She's like, no, my mother's a whole bottle of Vicodin. He says, don't worry. I know how to handle your mother. And, she's like, no one can handle my mother. And she's like, I can't. My father can't. She's like, hell, the president of the United States can't. But again, if he's got some secrets that he knows, that's how the hell he can handle her. So they go out. Of course, they're late. Everyone else is already seated. And of course, the mother has separated them. And she has put them on complete opposite ends of the table. So next to where so she has her, Patricia, then there's, what's his name, Jimmy, and then freaking Jada. Then on the other end, far down, she's got Spencer next to this blonde, busty woman. And Spencer is funny as shit. He gets up, he says a couple things to the blonde chick, and he gets up, and then he goes and he switches seats with the guy that was on the other side of Jada. And I was like, well, that's the mom's fault. If she wanted complete control, what she should have done is the seat that Jimmy was in, that's where you should have put Jada, so that way Jimmy would have been on the other side of her and Patricia would have been on the other side and she would be blocked in, and then Spencer couldn't get to her. So that was dumb on her part, but I think she didn't think that he would do that, that they would just abide by the whole thing. But honey, I don't know. Your daughter's not doing what she normally is supposed to do, so I wouldn't be thinking like that. And it worked out because now Spencer is right next to his baby, Jada. Of course, Patricia is pissed. Patricia, of course, is like, oh, so I guess you just switch seats whenever you want to at a dinner party. Uh, Jimmy, he had asked Jada, so are you going to come and work for me? And Jada was basically like, no. And the mom was like, oh, yes, you will. And then she gets up to make this speech, and all fucking hell breaks loose. She starts saying how, thanking everyone for coming, spending time with her and her family, blah, blah, blah. Then she starts making little digs at Spencer. And so he's catching all of this shade, and so he unleashes. And so Spencer says, when are you and your husband going to tell Jada that you two have been separated for what is it now, 15, 16 years? And that she has a brother from her dad, that he's had a son. And of course, the mother is pissed. But I love it because it's like, I don't know if she knew he knew her secrets, but anyone that's around you, when you're normally used to people being like scared around you, and here comes someone with a little bit too much confidence, if you know you into some stuff, your spidey senses should have perked up to go, I probably might not want to mess with him. But she kept poking the bear. And this is what happens. So the mom, of course, is telling him to get out. Jada's looking at her dad, trying to get some type of answer. And the dad is just looking at her like, it's true. Like, clearly, based on his reaction, this shit's true. And he gets up to leave. He's waiting for Jada to come, but Jada can't move. This girl is sitting there shaking, crying. She feels betrayed by Spencer because he didn't give her any heads up on this shit. And her parents have been lying to her all this time. She feels alone and betrayal on both ends, and so she doesn't know what to do. Her mom tells her, "Go clean your face." Girl hadn't even realized she was crying. So she leaves and goes upstairs to her old room, puts the cover over her head. I do feel bad for her. That's a lot of shit to learn. She's 29, and that's crazy. I kind of feel like they weren't going to ever tell her. She's 29 and they still hadn't told her. So, I'm curious. Like, why keep that from her? I don't get it. I don't get it. I get trying to portray a perfect family for the public, the mother, because she's all about image, so that makes sense. But still. And then I kind of feel like, okay, Spencer, you could have given her a heads up, but at the same time, if he did, the minute she walked in, she would have been demanding to know answers and demanding stuff. I don't know how that would have played out. I don't think it would have played out too great. So, ugh. Poor girl, she slept for 2 days. Every time she would wake up, she would just go back to sleep. She just didn't want to deal with nothing. Her former nanny, who is now like the house manager, it's a woman named Maria. This was her last nanny. She had had a ton of nannies, but when she got about 10, 12ish or something like that, Maria came into her life and they had a bond. And she told her mom, "I don't want any other nannies. This is it. Maria's it." And so Maria's been there ever since. Maria also, I guarantee, knows where a lot of bodies are buried when it comes to everything, because if she's the house manager, she's got to make this place run smoothly, and she got to know a lot of stuff. So we find out through Maria that Spencer brought back her purse and her phone, and Maria tells her he's a good man. I can tell you he's a good man. And she's like, "You need to go downstairs. Your mother wants you to join for breakfast. You need to get your strength back up. You need to face it. So she had asked Maria, "Did you know?" Maria just looks away because Maria won't lie to her. She'll just look away. And so she knows Maria knew. So she goes downstairs to deal with this. She tried to call Spencer to see if they're okay. She gets sent to voice, or she gets a message that says this number is no longer taking messages or service or some shit. And so it's like her hot, intense love affair is just done. And now she's going back thinking, when he hired her, he did a background on her. Did he hire her just to get back at the mother? Like, was this all fake? It didn't feel malicious, but what if that was the whole purpose? You know? So she's wondering about a lot of stuff. But she also remembers that everyone around the table didn't look shocked. So then that means people knew, she just didn't. You know? How they say have an open secret, but she just wasn't in on it. She wasn't delusional into thinking that her parents were in love with each other. She'd never seen a loving, type of situation between the two of them. So there wasn't this disillusion of, oh my God, I thought my family was this and it's not. But it's just, again, why would they keep this from me? Why were they lying about this? Like, she still has all these goddamn questions, which I understand. So she goes downstairs to eat, and her mother's down there with the Jimmy dude, and they have their back and forth. Thankfully, she's able to eat. Normally, when she's upset, she's going through something, especially with her mother, she can't eat. But she's eating. This is a good sign. Um, she's doing at least halfway decently. Her mother, of course, is like, "You're in PR. That's what you need to do." And he has a situation that he needs you to help with. That fixes everything, you know? And her mother asked her, like, what would you do in this situation, being now that it's about to clearly hit the fan, her divorce? And she says, you need to own it, you know? You need to go out to your public and you tell the truth. That's how you should deal with it, you know? And here's the thing, she's actually divorced. They're not just separated, they are divorced. Which even more so made her go, what the hell? And the mother's like, this does not leave this room. But clearly the guy, Jimmy, already knew about it. You know what I mean? So the mother's telling her, this is what you are going to do. You know? The Jimmy guy needs a PR person. The Spencer Blackstone dude, he left you. He's gone. Like, there's no purpose in you trying to go and do anything else. You need to work within your actual field, and I'm giving you that opportunity. So the Jimmy dude pulls out his phone and he's telling them how, he basically ran in the same circles as the Blackstones, where they would, vacation in San Tropez. He's got this video of Spencer with a woman, and it's that blonde, busty woman that was at the table. Her name's Gina and Spencer used to fuck. Now, Jimmy says that, according to Gina, he started off really loving and sweet, and then he got rough and he got abusive. And Jimmy made the comment, like, the woman's sick too, because she apparently liked getting hit and stuff like that. So the mother's like, he's clearly abusive. You need to let him go, blah, blah, blah. I didn't raise you to be with someone like this. She's thinking, I probably should run, but she already done fell for the dude. And the mother tells her Jimmy has this situation that needs a PR manager, and there's nothing stopping you from being it. So just go ahead and just take the job. We switched to Pincer's. I'm okay, I promise. We switched to Spencer's POV. We fast forward a month. He has now moved back to New York. He is seeing his therapist, Mita, 3 times a week now. He's telling her about the stream where. No, I'm sorry. It was a dream he had where he was punching a woman and the woman was laughing at him and saying, go do it harder. And when he looked back down at the woman, it was Jada, and he woke up. And Mita was like, okay, were you turned on? Were you aroused? He said, no, I was terrified that I could dream that. And she says this is improvement, because years ago he would have woke up, he would have been hard, right? But he's not. That type of behavior, it's like he's rewiring himself, and he didn't have that same reaction. So Mita's telling him, like, no, this is a good thing. He tells her he's super upset because he's been calling Jada and it's saying the phone is not accepting phone calls. And he knows that sometimes Jada puts her phone on airplane mode when she doesn't want to talk to her mom. So it feels like she's chosen her mom over him. He knows she's working as the PR manager for the Jimmy dude. Mita tells him there was no closure. So you need to try and get some closure. You all need to have a conversation. And he agrees. He'll try and talk to her. He says he misses her terribly. It's been extremely difficult for him. So he's going to try and reach out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let's see how this plays out. We fast forward one more week after the 4 weeks. And we're now at 5 weeks now. She's been working on this campaign. Jada hates it. The guy, Jimmy, he's a dweeb. He pretends around the mother like he's a golden kid, but he's just a fucking jerk. The campaign manager, this guy's name's Ron. He's kind of the only person that can kind of keep the Jimmy dude in line. And she describes him, the Ron dude, he's been successful doing this since he was 25. He hasn't lost any type of election yet. So he's 53 now. So he's like the golden dude to handle this. And basically what has happened, the guy's a creep. There's been some, accusations of groping women and different things. And it's about trying to clean up his image. But he's just a jerk. He's just a pure jerk. So the television's playing on the plane. There's a news thing on, and Spencer's on. Spencer's with a news reporter, and they have the camera. They're videotaping the bodies. He's saying how he wants to make things right. They're going to do DNA testing so they can get these girls back to their families. He calls his dad a sick, twisted man, goes off. And the Jimmy guy's getting all pissed off watching it because he's like, oh, he's just trying to make himself look good. So the Jimmy dude just complains all the time. He's just a mess. So when she's watching this, she's going, okay, I knew there had to be good in him, you know? Because if he's trying to make this right and get justice for these women, like, he's got to be more than what has been shown. More than what her mom has been trying to convince her that he is. So she winds up snapping at Jimmy because he was like screaming at the flight attendant because the ice water only had like 3 cubes in it. So he got pissed. He's just a brat. She finally yelled at him. It's like she's trying to get fired, but it's like no one's gonna fire her. None of them. I'm thinking she should have just quit because I'm like, she should have at least 40 grand. At least. Like, why would you work for, like, if you hate it that much, these are bad people that you're trying to put into positions of power. Like, this is crazy, you know? They get to DC, they get off the plane, get into the black SUVs. Ron gets into the vehicle with her to talk, and he's like, okay, spill it. So here's the thing. She doesn't like the job, but she's good at her job. Okay? And even though what she was doing for Spencer was, below her skill set, she still cannot stand doing this. This is worse, you know? Ron wants to know what she's going to say to like the huge donors at tonight's event. There's a woman named Alice who adores her mother, and basically she tells him, I'm just going to sell Jimmy as, if you're supporting Jimmy, then you're supporting my mother. And he can kind of tell that she's there, but she's not really there. You know what I mean? Like, he can tell she's not drinking the mother's Kool-Aid anymore. She doesn't believe in her mother so much. And that could be a problem. So Ron's job as a campaign manager, right, he's trying to keep everything together. Keep everything under wraps. But I don't know. I don't see how none of them still believe. I think they just like being close to someone with some power. That's all. You know what I mean? Because they see that she ain't shit. Patricia ain't shit. You know? So, I don't. I'm like, why does she have to be the one to believe in this when none of y'all do? You know? That's just kind of insane. They get to the hotel. She's not going with the rest of the group for right now. She is just so tired of having to lie all the time with these people. So she's going to go to her room, and Jimmy comes running up behind her asking, you know, well, saying to her first, I just want to apologize for being rude to the flight attendant. And she's like, so let me get this straight. You want to apologize to me for being rude to someone else? She's like, that doesn't make sense, you know? And he said something about, like, it's, I just wanted cold water. And she's like, that's not the point of you wanting cold water. It's about being like a decent human being instead of being an asshole. Like, So he gets upset. And he's like, well, I was just apologizing. And so she goes, you know what? Fine. Apology accepted. If it'll make him go away, cool. Then he asks her, do you want to get a drink before the event? So we can, like, maybe get to know each other? She's like, no, thank you. And she walks off, doesn't look back. And I'm thankful she did. I don't get that dude. Maybe he's not used to know. Maybe he just don't like no. Because she gives nothing of interest with him. And that to me was just like, ugh, so asinine on his part to even ask her. So she takes a shower. She just wants to kind of wash all of the Jimmy everything from her. And she's getting ready. She's thinking about calling Spencer again. She says when she calls it, it rings once and then it goes to voicemail. So after seeing him in that interview, she's like, you know, maybe I got it wrong, right? And she doesn't call him. She goes ahead and heads down to the event because she needs to speak with the donor Alice Bigwig, and that's where her focus has got to be. So there's a lot of candidates at this event. This event basically is about trying to get some money, okay? So Alice is the golden ticket. That's who she's, there to see. And Alice tells her to come over, and away she goes. She goes over and talks with Alice. Alice is kind of like, I don't know. Alice kind of likes to play a little like games a little bit. I think she kind of gets off on the fact that, like, people want her money. They're kind of willing to jump through hoops to get it, and it's kind of like, what can I do, right? What loop can I throw them for? Again, once you have a ton of money that you can buy anything, then it becomes about power. And then manipulating people is not too far off. So, anyway, she wanted to know what she thinks about her mom revealing the divorce and all that stuff. She calls it her mother's on this divorce campaign. That's what Alice calls it. And she says, my mother's doing what she feels right. And Alice is like, that's not what I asked. I want to know what you think of it. She said, honestly, I never thought my parents were in love. So there's not like there's this illusion of what marriage, was with them, you know. But the woman then says, but what about the fact that you have a brother? And she's like, I'll just cross that bridge when I get to it. Her father, he hasn't been seen since Christmas. He has been over in Europe and Asia, allegedly on business. And I'm wondering if his kid lives over there. I don't know, because we haven't gotten any more details. But I want the deets, honey, on that other child. So Alice basically feels like Jimmy is a little too young. She likes her candidates a little bit more seasoned. And Alice asked her who she voted for in the previous election. Thankfully, they were interrupted by a DJ. And Alice was like, I look forward to hearing your answer. And she looks up Jada, and she has this look from Ron because he's at the table behind her, and he must can tell because she can as well that she's losing Alice. So she's got to come up with a way to get Alice back on the team. So there's mingling going on with a lot of people. Dinner gets served, and then someone gets up. They're talking. I think the guy's name was Charles something, and he's saying a lot of campaign phrases, nothing of real substance. And then she hears a voice, and she's eating her salad, and it's freaking Spencer. So Spencer gets up and he says, I get an invitation to this shindig every year. And being that I was in town to speak with the FBI to give them some of your own names, I figured I'd stop by. He then starts reading off a list of all these people who apparently have been taking money from overseas. Could be dictators, all kind of folks, shady people, and like basically filtering the money through the campaign like it's a campaign donation. It's corruption, okay? And Jimmy's name is on that list, and he says Jimmy's name, and he's saying other names. He didn't say Alice, and he didn't say Patricia, but people started booing, and he was just like, hey, I'm giving you the information, you do with it as you will. And so Jimmy, of course, is upset. And when he sees her get up, because Spencer's walking out, she, of course, is finna go after Spencer. And Jimmy's like, if you go after him, you are fired. And for her, it's like, cool, because she could care less, right? She can't stand this guy. So she doesn't care. She is going after Spencer. And so this all apparently started because remember in the first book with the guy Dylan, she had saw some stuff and she was like, this don't seem right. This seems off. And sure enough, he did more digging, and that's how he came across all of this fraud. I don't know what we call it. Illegal shit. We'll say that. And when she goes out, unfortunately, he's gone. But my thing was, why not just go up to her at the table and just say, I need to talk to you? Why not just say it to her? Why walk past her? You know? I didn't understand that. I just kind of felt like that was stupid. I felt like you talk with your therapist. Mita told you you all need to have a conversation, X, Y, and Z for the closure or whatever. And you walk right fucking by her. It was just insane to me that he did that. Being that there's no freaking Spencer because the vehicle she saw looked like that was the one he was in. And so she goes back inside, but she doesn't go to the dinner. And even though Jimmy told her she's fired, she knows technically she still has a job. The problem is she doesn't want the job anymore. So she was paid 6 weeks in advance. Spencer had paid her. Plus she had gotten new checks from this job. So which allowed her pay off all her credit card debt, and she still got a nice little chunk in the bank. So she doesn't need to keep working for her mother for this campaign. You know? And she doesn't believe in the candidate. You don't really want to do it. You need the separation. I'm like, girl, yeah, you just need to quit. So anyway, she goes to the elevator, and just as she's about to go in, a hand stops her, and it is Spencer. He is still there. And I'm like, thank goodness, because you know what? If he really had a left, I was going to be pissed because I'm like, your purpose, yes, expose these no good people, fine, whatever, but you and this girl need to have a conversation. You and this woman need to have a conversation, you know? And that was your opportunity. And you didn't see Patricia nowhere either. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad he didn't leave because I was going to be real pissed. He gets on the elevator. There's another couple that's already in there. They recognize him and they're like, "Oh my God, you're Spencer Blackstone." And I'm like, well, no, they're like, we saw your interview. We're so sorry, and all these different things. So he's got all these different looks going on in his face. So she understands him a little bit. So she knows when he's looking all confused, he's thinking, but it may look like he's kind of mad at you, but he's not. It's just that's how his face looks when he's processing. So when they get to the floor, him and Jada get out, and the other couple's looking at them trying to see what's going on. So then as they walk down the hall, he grabs her and she makes the comment like, you really like dropping bombshells. And he said it had to be done. And then she said you were reading from a list and you didn't read all of the names. He said, yeah, there were a few more on there. And of course her mother was on there. And so then he grabs her, kisses her, and it feels like no time has passed. She is beyond cloud nine. They get to the door. She's going through her purse, to get her card, the card for the room. He swipes it because he's got to get inside of her in both ways. But yeah, so I knew Patricia was on there because she just seems corrupt. I'm sorry, but she just gives corrupt politician. Anybody that goes to those links to like manipulate and do stuff, you can't tell me you're a good person. There's no fucking way. They get inside. He tells her to take off her dress. She's just in her underwear, and he's looking at her like he just wants to devour her. And this is when they have a conversation. And he says, "Why didn't you just come back?" She was like, "I called you, I don't know how many times, and I couldn't get through." And he was like, "Your father must have jammed up the communication so that way we couldn't contact each other." And she, of course, is like, "My father wouldn't do that." And he's like, "Your father is no saint, you know?" He's like, he was willing to cover up divorce. He's got a child that he hasn't told you about. And of course, this is hard for her to hear because for her, her father was like her only ally, right? So now you're telling me the only ally in the family I have, probably can't really trust his ass too much either. So of course it upsets her, and he's like, "You could have come back to me. You could have flew to Wyoming. You could have resumed working for me." And he's like, "But you didn't do that. You stayed with them." So he gets up and he starts walking towards the door. She of course was like, it hurt her how he revealed everything at Christmas, you know, revealing everything in front of everybody, you know, that was her first time hearing this. In spite of the fact that clearly it was this open secret everyone else knew, but she didn't know, and he didn't give her a heads up. And he tells her that he knew she was a parent pleaser because that's who he was before. He recognized it. And then he just leaves, and she is completely stunned. So she's laying there, she's thinking like he left because he feels like she's going to keep choosing her mother every time. There's a knock on the door. She thought it was him, but it wasn't. It was her mother. And her mother, Patricia, is like, "What are you doing up here? You're supposed to be downstairs." And she looks at her mom. She's like, "What are you doing here?" And she's like, "Jada, you have a job to do. You need to be downstairs." And so Jada's like, "No, answer my question. What are you doing here?" So the mom, Patricia, tries to get in the room, and she's like, "No." So she winds up slamming the door in her mom's face. And a part of her wants to run back and apologize and try and make it right because, again, that's that parent pleaser in her. But she decides no, she wants the opposite, you know? She's going in the opposite direction of her mother. I just hope she can stay on track, because it don't take much for her mama to get her wrap back around her finger. She gets her stuff and she called Hope, asked Hope if she could stay with her for a little bit. Hope was happy. And Hope said she had something to tell her, but she wanted to tell her in person. And she's like, okay. She doesn't want to talk about everything over the phone anyway, especially not about the night she just had. So then one of the hotel workers, as she was walking out, followed her with a note, and she didn't read the note until she got in the cab, and it was from Alice, and it said meet her at Constantine's at 10:30 p.m., which is like 12 minutes from now. So she starts thinking if this is some type of ambush, she doesn't want to deal with it. But at the same time, this new power she feels, she's going to have to go up against her mom, right? So if this is her mom trying to corner her, then so be it, because, she got to face it, basically, So she goes and meets with Alice, and Alice was like, "You never came back to the event." And she says, "I'm done with all of this." And Alice says, "Your mother doesn't seem to think so." She says, "Well, what my mother thinks isn't my problem." So Alice says, "He loves you. You know that, right?" And she's like, "Who? What?" And Alice says, "Spencer Blackstone. He loves you. That's why he didn't say your mother's name." And she thought about it. And Alice says, "Has he ever thought about going into politics?" And Jada says, "Nah, he wouldn't do that." And she's like, "He should run. If he did, I'd put my support behind him. He'd crush Jimmy. He's from the same state." And I was like, oh my gosh. So Alice was like, "Patricia's done. She'll try to climb her way back, but she's done. She's too tainted. I need to hitch my wagon to a winning horse." And it was like, damn, so fast. Like knowing this woman for decades, but the minute you become tainted, gotta let you go. And at first she thought about defending her mom because again that's her go-to response. But then she was like, "You know what? I genuinely don't care. It's not her battle." And Alice again says, "Talk to Spencer about it." And she says to her, "Your mom underestimates you. You know, if she had have known what you would have grown into be, I think she would have been different with a lot of things." So I guess Jasper, Spencer's older brother, he was supposed to run for some type of office because that's what Randolph wanted. So thankfully, when Randolph died, Jasper very quickly went in another direction that he really wanted to go into. So that's good. He wasn't stuck in this crazy, that life he didn't want. So we know Spencer's in therapy, and I don't know. Does he still have the issue of trying to one up Jasper? Because he might jump at this opportunity because then he's doing something that Jasper couldn't do, but that his father wouldn't do. And even though I know he's trying to get through and past being like a parent pleaser, trying to fulfill whatever his parents wanted for him, is a part of that still there? I wonder. I hope not. I really don't. I really do. I hope Spencer can just live the life he wants to live and stop basing it upon Jasper. I really hope so. I really, really do. So as Alice leaves out, our girl Jada says, "I voted for Marcy." And Alice laughed and said, "I figured as much." So now our girl Jada's headed to her favorite city in the world, Manhattan. So our girl leaves DC that night, honey. She catches the train. She gets back in New York at about 4 a.m. She could have took the subway to get to Hope's place, but Hope was like, "No, no, no, I'm coming to pick you up." So she comes and picks her up. She's got this shiny new silver car. And she's like, "What? You didn't tell me you got a new car." And when they get inside the car, she sees the ring. Our other girl, Hope, she's engaged. And she's like, "What happened these past 3 months?" So when she had left, of course, Hope had been banging this district attorney dude, but then this dude had like a commitment phobia, and she realized he was just basically banging her until he finds somebody else he would like to fuck with. And so after that, she kind of was like so tired of going through the same bullshit, and she kind of she was like, "You know what? I couldn't keep blaming the guys because I'm choosing them. So she had a real talk with herself, and she's like, "You're choosing these assholes. Like, why are you doing this to yourself?" And so she decided to go and get uh some Ben& Jerry's and get her cookies and cream. And when she did, there was a guy that said sometimes you just need cookies and cream. And so she decided to ask the guy to dinner. And the guy's name is Perry. And normally she doesn't ask anyone out. So this was her completely being out of her comfort zone. But shit, what you was doing in your comfort zone wasn't getting you what you really needed or truly wanted. So I'm like, hey, do what makes you happy. So the Perry dude, he's a real estate developer, super successful, and she's just so in love with this dude. So when they get back to her apartment, it looks like no one's been staying there because for the past 3 weeks, no one has. She's been living with Perry. So she's like, you stay here as long as you need. Don't worry about any type of money. We'll figure out, all of that once you get a new job. We can talk about money then. So she's happy for her friend, but at the same time, she's suspicious because, again, this is different than what she's used to with Hope, right? Hope don't act this way about nobody. So it definitely makes her miss Spencer. She does admit to Hope, that she doesn't feel like she should give up on him. And Hope was like, I don't think you should either. I don't think you should give up on him. And she's like, you know what? Let's go out tonight. Me, you, and Perry and a few friends. Let's go out to dinner. And at first she's like, no, come on. Let's get you back in the New York scene. And so she decides, okay, I'll come out tonight. That night she tosses and turns. Eventually she just sits on the edge of the bed and she wants to call Spencer, but she's like, what if he doesn't, if the call doesn't go through? So she decides to text him. And I'm sitting there going, why the hell you didn't try fucking texting before? But anyway, she just sends a text that says hi. He immediately responds, where are you? She thinks about what she could say, but then she just says New York. And he texts back, why did you leave DC? And again, she's thinking of a bunch of answers she could say, but she settles on, I quit my job. And she waits for another response. He doesn't say anything, and she eventually lays back and goes to sleep. So then we switch to our boy Spencer. Now, Spencer was about to text her back, but then his, I want to say attorney, this guy named Nestor, comes in, and he's got news. So there were 17 bodies in the wall. Wow. Okay. Through DNA, they've identified some. Well, I think they've identified most of them. And they know some of them were sex workers and things like that. So it sounds like the dad was this sounds more serial killery, right? Like 17 people buried in the wall. And that's just what was buried in the walls. Ooh, that's a lot. So he's going to give the families of these women no less than $20 million. He's going to pay for all the funeral expenses. He's trying to make some type of atonement for what his father did. Nestor tells him that one of the women was named Irina Petrov. She was on the FBI's most wanted list for over 20 years for human trafficking. Now, through DNA, he was able to find out that she has a sister and a grandmother who they live in Toronto, I want to say. They live in Canada. And so the sister Nadia is living under a different name. She's using the identity Sarah Caldwell. So Nestor was going to go visit her, but then Spencer was like, no, 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 I want to go do it. And he actually wants to take Jada with him. He, of course, is imagining making love to her all the way there and back, and he can call her now because I guess Nestor fixed the issue with the phone. So he thanked Nestor for being able to do that because I guess some kind of way they had jammed the lines, which is crazy. I didn't know you could do nothing like that. I was just kind of baffled by that. Like, how do you do? That's wild. The basic, block people or whatever, but the freak, I don't know how they did that. So we then switch back to our girl Jada. This girl slept the whole day. She gets a call from Hope saying that dinner turned into a party. Told her where to go. She's like, get your ass here. So she gets ready. She had a really crazy dream. She had a dream that her dad was like sucking the titty of a woman, and the woman was a prostitute. And then he like offed her mother. It was like a really creepy, weird dream. And it, of course, made her think, like, what the hell's going on that I'm having these type of dreams? Like, that's just weird. So, anyway, she starts thinking about the little text message exchange that she had. And, of course, she's thinking, dang, like, what did I say that made him just stop responding? So, she decides, fuck it. She's going to go ahead, get ready, go to this little party, get some good food, and hopefully some new man she can start getting over cryptic crazy Spencer. So she gets to the bar and it's actually an engagement party. Hope and Perry are getting married this coming Saturday. Now warning bells are going off in Jada's head. But when the Perry guy comes in, she meets him. He's he's very much the opposite of anything Hope has ever messed with. He's shorter than Hope. He has a kind looking face. He is like the complete opposite. But when she watches them together and the way they kiss and how they all over each other, she realizes like, wow, my friend's happy. I hope it works out. If it crashes and burns, I'll be here either way. And she leaves it at that. No overthinking about it. So then these other two friends, I don't know if we could fully call these people that, Angela and Laura. Now, Laura, you can't be around Laura for too long. Like, you give Laura about 5 minutes, and then after that, she becomes a bitch. So, they wanted to know who she was working for. She eventually tells them Spencer Blackstone. They, of course, were like, the Laura girl, you could hook me up because I know you can't do anything with it because you're a virgin. You know? Just back and forth. And then when our girl Jada was like, no, actually, we did bang, they were just kind of like, there's no way. Not you. That was how the Laura girl was. And then she just walks off. She's just a bitch mode. So I was like, well, no wonder you don't. I can see why you don't really consider these people those friends. They seem kind of wish washy. So anyway, she goes and gets some food, and this guy named Daniels is like, oh, I like a woman with a hefty appetite, blah blah blah. So she'd had some drinks, and so she tells the guy more than she normally would. She told him who she's like, she stopped working for her mother, and she said who her mother was, and the guy was like, well, let's dance. So she's like, yeah, let's dance. So she dances with him. She's getting into the music. She's starting swaying her body like a snake. And then she feels hands grab her waist. And the voice says, who is that guy? Like, who is this? And I was like, the goddamn Mr. Blackstone has arrived. Which I like that he popped up. Since he just walked out, I'm glad he popped back up. They immediately start kissing, and she missed him so much, especially after she got that little taste of him in DC, and then he left. So they're kissing and stuff, and then we find out he knew where she was because he's friends with Perry. And so he's like, let's get out of here. So normally she would have stayed, but she was like figuring her friend had something to do with this anyway, since Hope was telling her not to give up. They get outside. He tells her he's sorry for what happened in DC. He's like, I was butthurt because you didn't choose me. And she's like, but I'll always choose you. And he's like, I know that, babe. I know. So then he cranks up the vehicle, and she doesn't care where he's going. She literally says he could take me to hell and I will be fine as long as I'm with him. And I do it with a smile on my face. When I tell you, I don't never want to feel that way about nobody. That is insane. So he drives him to his place in Chelsea. And I guess it's one of those places where it has a private elevator for the vehicle. And so they're like fucking in the elevator because they're in the vehicle. And when they get out, he puts her on the bed. And they have their nice hard fuck. They fucked a few times because they have been starving for each other. So she's laying on his chest, and he says, "When I came, you were dancing with a guy. Why?" And she says, "I was just dancing. It didn't mean anything." And she's like, "I don't even remember the dude's name." And he said, "What would have happened if I hadn't have come?" And she's like, "Nothing. And he tells her, "I want you to be mine only." And she's like, "I am yours." And he says, "I need you to understand that, like, this is really hard for me." Like, he's never been aroused and had such pleasure with someone, right? Because remember, the thing with him was pain is what made him get aroused, right? So, him being aroused by her, it feels foreign to him, and it's a lot for him to process. And he feels ashamed even though he shouldn't. You know what I mean? And this makes her feel some type of way because she doesn't want him to fuck her and then feel bad about the shit. Right? I get that. And he was like, "No, I'm not trying to make you feel bad." He was like, "I'm just trying to share you the fucked up part of who I am. I want to be honest with you. And just understand that there's a lot of fucked up shit going on in my head." And he's like, "I want you to love me for who I am, not who you want me to be. I'm not perfect." And she's like, "I never thought you were perfect." You know? He told her he loved her. She told him, you know, "I never expected you to be perfect, you know, anything like that." She told him she loved him as well. And he, of course, was just like, "I just don't want to lie to you like your parents did for 16 years. That put her on edge, right? But she told him, again, she loved him. And then what happened? I don't know. They probably fucked again or something. I can't remember at this moment. But he does tell her that he would like to take her to Toronto, which makes her happy because he's including her in his plans. The next morning, he gets up and they go in the kitchen, and he can cook. So his dad always had world class chefs at the house, and so some of them were willing to share their craft, and so he learned a lot. So he's cooking her breakfast, and he's happy, she's happy. And he tells her how now he feels like he's thriving, because before he was just in survival mode, and he doesn't feel like that anymore. And she kind of said the same thing. She's like, not being under my mom's thumb and not being in DC anymore, that kind of makes me feel like I'm thriving as well. So then afterwards, he kisses her, whips his dick out, and tells her to sit on it, and she does. And he's like, "Don't move." He's like, "I just want to feel just the experience of just being inside of you. Just don't move." So they're just looking at each other, and she said something about, "I can't believe Perry's like one of your good, your friends." And he's like, "Yeah, he's a really good dude, da 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 da." And she's like, "You already said that," because he said that the guy was a good dude twice. And he's like, "I really can't concentrate with you sitting on me." And he made a comment about the fact that I guess it's a known secret that Perry's got a huge schlong. And she's like, "Well, you've got a pretty good one, a pretty big one too." And she starts moving, and then after that, they're fucking. So they spend the rest of the day just kind of being with each other. It doesn't feel like they're trying to get this record amount of orgasm. It's just like they can't get enough of each other. They just feel like one soul. They just constantly want to be inside of the other person. It's wild. When she wakes up, there's a note, says something, he's got to go work on something. He's in his office. And oh, I also forgot to mention that when he took her on a tour of the place, he showed her, he would say, like, "This is our bathroom and this is our bedroom," like he was saying "our." And she didn't know, okay, does he really mean this shit, or is this something else, because she's very much in love with this guy at this point. So he's all dressed in a suit when she comes to his office, and he tells her he's got to go take care of something, but he'll be back. And he's like, I want to tell you, he's already brought all of her stuff from Wyoming to here. And he was like, I wanted you to come and stay with me. And of course, it's made her the happiest thing. You know, that's what she'd been waiting for him to ask her. And then his phone rings, he answers it, and it's Perry. And she's like, oh, shoot, what's Hope saying? And he says, it's not Hope, it's about your mother. Her mom has been shot. She was returning to her home in California, and someone ambushed her in the driveway and shot her. Now, Spencer believes this was a setup. She, of course, is not believing that her mother would go to those lengths. But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe if she needs your sympathy, right? I don't know. So, the fact that they were accepting funds from overseas and it's all this crap, federal crimes are going on. She needs an image to make herself look better. I'm not gonna put it past the mom. I'm kind of with Spencer on this one. This is where I feel like her that urge to protect her mother, it's there, and it's clearly it surfaces so fucking fast, you know. She immediately goes back to that thing of the only thing that matters is your mother, that's it. And it's how she's been trained. So he leaves. He doesn't even say goodbye to her. Like, he's pissed. He does say via text that he got a car for her and arranged for a flight to get her to go see her mom in Santa Barbara. But I got a feeling this mom set this shit up. I'm sorry. I'm with Spencer on this one for sure. So, she's got the whole private experience, taking her private jet directly to Santa Barbara. There's a rental car she's driving. And actually, let me back up. Before she got off the plane, she did message him, thank you for what he had done, but he didn't respond. So she gets a call from Hope, and Hope is like, where are you? And she's like, I'm on my way to Santa Barbara. And Hope goes, by yourself? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, Hope's like, you shouldn't have done that. You are not in a position to be able to handle her. Now, this upsets Jada, you know? And our girl Hope just kind of starts listing shit. She was like, your mother is the queen of manipulation. She was like, you don't remember when we were supposed to go overseas on a girls' trip and your mother came to you and said that your dad was about to have a life-threatening operation, that he could die and all of this stuff, and you immediately canceled the trip? You went home, and then come to find out 2 days later all he had was a regular colonoscopy. But by the time you found out the truth, she had already roped you into uh 2 state dinners, and you were thinking about moving back home in the process. You were about to renovate the guest house. She's like, your mom will go to any lengths. So Jada's getting upset because all of this stuff is true and it's not what she wants to think about. And she's like, you don't have to tell me, list all of her transgressions to me. Believe me, I remember. So now she's determined to try and prove Hope and Spencer wrong again at the behest of her mother. Her mother's shit. Like, the fact that her mother did that to her so she wouldn't go on a trip, but she needed to use her, that is insane. That you lied that bad. Oh my gosh. That's insane. And my thing is, her mother is going to get her claws into her again, and let's see if she can get her ass out. She gets to the hospital. There's a bunch of reporters outside. They're throwing all these questions, is your mother okay? Are you afraid? All this type of stuff. So her mother's security guy comes down to get her and take her to Patricia. And she can tell something's off. Because the guy makes the comment, she didn't know you were coming. And then he's like, she'll answer all your questions when you get up there. She's waiting for you. Well, which is it? You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, this dude is on the mom's payroll. You're not going to get anything out of this guy, right? So she goes in the room. She's expecting to see her mother, like, tubes up her nose, like, passed out. Honey, Patricia is sitting up looking divine with a little patch on her exposed shoulder on the fucking phone. Room is beautiful. And she even shushed her when she started talking to her mom. See what I'm saying? So I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with this bitch. And so she asked her mom what happened. Her mom's just like, I don't know, just some maniac popped out or whatever. And then she's like, but listen, I need you to do something for me. I need you to meet with Thomas about a bill that's set to go to the floor next week. And I need you to convince him to be on my side. And she realizes, oh my gosh, she did this to get me to come back and to do something, to do her bidding for her. There was this gleam in her mother's eye, kind of like she won, you know? And I don't know. It's insane. That's all I got. It is just insane. And she wild, because I would have been like, you know what? I would have, because I do think with a parent like that, you got to be careful. They'll do anything to preserve their image. So I wouldn't put past that mother offing her if she's going to disturb the image too much. So I would play along, and then I'd take my ass and get the fuck up out of there and get back to New York. Cause I would not trust this mother. This is crazy. Her mother winds up asking her, "You never told me what happened between you and Spencer Blackstone." And she's like, "Oh, we just had a fight." She didn't go into detail. But she knows for a fact she's not going to meet this guy in DC. She's just trying to bid her time to get away from her mother because she knows Spencer and Hope, they were right. This was a setup. Now she knows her mother is never going. Now she knows her mother's never going to confess to setting this up. She's got to find the evidence for herself. So she winds up telling her mom she's really tired. She's going to take a nap in one of the spare rooms. And she actually was able to dip out and get out of the hospital. And then she leaves from there. She goes back to, I guess, the family home. But I just feel like it's Patricia's house. Okay? And she can't go in the main way because the mother switches the security code so often. So she can go to the guest house in the back, which is where sometimes Maria or someone in the staff might stay if they work too late. So the door is open. She goes in, and there's a room that her mom calls like the throwaway room. And it's where she gets things from when she goes out of town, all types of memorabilia. And so she recalls when she was younger, she had saw her mother slip out of that room, and she kind of wondered, like, what the hell is she doing in there? Because normally Maria's the one that goes in and out of that room to get stuff for the mom. And so she went in there and she had saw these like letters from somebody named Gunther. And she was like, okay, this is her mother private stuff. She left it, didn't think about it anymore, just left it like a trained puppy. That's how that mom has them trained. You know, you keep the secrets, leave it alone. So she decided to go back in that room, and she's looking through stuff. She's seeing ledgers, clearly payments, and they're payments that were coming from Blackstone Enterprises. And they're from like many years ago. And she's trying to think of when Randolph died, because the checks were like 100,000 plus. And so she's thinking, like, what the hell? So she's wondering if Spencer knew about this. Then she sees something that the mother wrote on the back of one of the envelopes, and her jaw drops. We don't know what it says, but she looks at her phone. She got some missed calls from Spencer. Maria came in because she had heard something, and Maria just, never went into a certain portion of that room, and she just lets her mom have her secrets. Maria's loyalty, however, it is to Jada. So Maria's not going to tell the mom that Jada was in this room. She's just not going to do it. Maria will rather take the heat for it, and where Jada was like, if she asks, just say it's me, because she doesn't want anything to happen to Maria. But Maria will protect Jada. Like, I think she kind of views her as kind of like her kid, because she kind of raised her, because the mom was barely there. So Jada's kind of like her kid. So I'm like, ooh, oh my gosh. She gets out of there, puts everything back the way it was. She gets in her rental car and she drives. She knows she's not going back to the hospital. Um, but she realizes what Spencer said was true. She doesn't have hard proof, but what she found was on the back of the envelope, it said, hush for girls, which means this is the hush money for about the girls that Randolph was doing stuff with. And so she winds up having to pull over because she's crying so goddamn bad. And then she gets a phone call from Spencer. So Spencer is talking with Jasper. Jasper wants to sell the family home in Newport. And the person who's buying it is Alice, that big donor. He knows about the fact that she wants him to run for office, but again, he's not interested in that. Alice has a contention with purchasing the home. She wants to meet with Spencer, and then if Spencer meets with her, she'll continue with the sale. So Jasper's begging him to do it. Jasper's gonna meet him up. They're gonna meet up at the house, and we get some memories from Spencer when he was younger. He remembers seeing his dad with some young girl and how the girl's eyes looked vacant. But she looked sad, but it was like she was sad for him because hell, she was going to endure what she had to, but he was still going to be left in that home with that monster. And he would have nightmares about that girl for a long time. So when him and Jasper talk, Jasper's saying that Bryn, she doesn't want to sell the house. And Bryn apparently is back in rehab. And she, is really fighting against the sale because she feels like this place can be redeemable. And so Spencer said, let her have it. If she needs us, we'll be there for her just like we always have. You know? She knows how to go and get help if she needs it. She knows how to come to us. But if she wants this house, let her have it. You know? And Jasper apparently isn't a Blackstone. I think he's a Hollander. So I'm thinking Amelia must have messed with somebody else or something. I don't know. It's so much secrets and so much stuff with this family. Oh my gosh. So with Spencer going through therapy, he of course realizes that his brother was, Jasper was held hostage. He didn't want the life that was thrown at him. And that's something Spencer needed, because if you spend your whole life upset with a person because you think they have the affection you want or you long for, and then you realize it's fucking trash, it kind of helped them, that relationship. And like they gave each other a big hug, and that was nice because they were never really like that before, because it was always that contention. But good grief. So we're still in Spencer's POV, okay? And he's getting off the plane. His ass is in, I don't know where he is. He sees this message from Jada. We don't know what the hell it says, but he screams out no. And he's replying back to her, but she's not texting back. He calls her, but it's going straight to voicemail. So he's got to get to her because apparently she's about to do something extremely dangerous and he's got to stop her. And that's how it ends. So the next book, I think it's the last book in the series, is Bliss. And we are going to dive into that one next week. What did you all think? Again, I love it. I still want to know about the son, how old he is, where is he that the father has. I still want to know that. So I hope they give us that tea. I also want to know every single thing that Patricia has done because I just feel like the list is so long. So I want to know about that. I hope there's no secrets when it comes to Perry. I hope he's just a good dude and Hope just found a winner. I hope that's the case. But I ain't gonna be too mad if it is there's a little tea with him too. That would be crazy. But what did you guys think? Let me know down in the comment section. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are down below in the description section. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.